Hey everyone! Today's topic is going to be wave management. We'll see what it is, what are the different techniques and what they're used for, and how to apply them with some neat tricks. Let's go. So what's wave management? Well, as the name implies, it means manipulating the wave to obtain certain situations. There are five techniques to manipulate the wave. The first one is hard pushing, the second one slow pushing, the third one is neutral, the fourth one is freezing, and the fifth one is proxying. Let's see what they bring to you and how to apply them. The first wave manipulation that we're going to see is also the less subtle one. We're going to hard push the wave, also called hard shove, which means we're going to use all our cooldowns or abilities to push the wave under tower. This will give you the free time you need, either to make a recall or to go on an objective. This is a good way to force the enemy laner to go and catch the wave that is dying on the tower while you can do something else. The second technique we're going to see is called slow pushing. So to slow push, you need to have a little advantage of creeps on your side of the wave. So just like that, by attacking a little bit the wave, I'm starting to build an advantage of creeps. This will in time create a big wave. This is why it's called slow pushing, because it will take time and it will build up the number of creeps on your side. This will help you to trade against the enemy laner because you'll have more minions defending you. This will help you potentially against enemy ganks because the minion will help you. And the last a really good benefit you'll have is that it will create a lot of minions crashing on the tower, giving you a bit like the hard push, a lot of time to do something else. The third technique we're going to talk about is what I call neutral. It means that you want to have as less impact as possible on the enemy wave to avoid changing anything. Let's say you're happy to have the wave in the middle because it will allow you to trade and not be under the enemy tower. Well, you do not want to have any impact. So what you're going to do is match the enemy push. If he's not pushing, you'll have to last it at the last moment possible. If he's pushing, you will want to match his push. That's neutral. It will help you maintain the conditions as they are. This will be creating opportunities to trade mostly. The fourth technique we're going to see is called freezing. To make a freeze, you have to have more enemy minions than friendly minions. It's actually a slow push, but for the enemy laner. So, we said that a slow push is good for us, so why would it be good to have one against us? Well, this is only a reliable technique if you're bullying the enemy laner. It means that even with more minions, you're able to bully the enemy laner. And what does it bring us? Well, it allows us to put the wave at a really nice position for ourselves, which is next to our tower. In this way, we won't be suffering much pressure from the enemy jungler, which means will be safer, as we said, and also closer to the tower. And which also means that the enemy laner will be in a bad spot because he will be far away from his tower. So he will be more susceptible to ganks. Where in the mid lane, you want to freeze about here. When you're in the top lane, you want to freeze about here. So let's have a little recap. When can we freeze? We can freeze when we're stronger than the enemy laner or when he cannot bully us easily. So if you're ranged usually in the top lane, you can try to freeze here. If you're bullying the enemy, you can try to freeze here. This will bring you more safety and with this will allow you to bully harder the enemy laner. So freeze is really strong, but there are conditions to be able to do that. And in the first place, the first condition is to have a slow push against you, which is not something you can really create by yourself unless you get hit by the enemy champion to start creating a slow push against you. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, if you want to make a decent freeze that won't break, you have to have at least 4 enemy minions more than ally minions. This will make up for the fact that the ally minions will come sooner than the enemy minions, so having 4 more enemy minions will help them stay on the stronger side. And I also forgot, freezing is nice, but getting frozen is awful. And always starts, with a slow push on your side. So if you're starting to make a slow push, but you cannot shove the wave into the tower and you stay stuck here, you're going to be frozen. This will be really hard on you and can lose you the lane. So what can you do? Well, first, do not get frozen, or secondly, ask your jungler to come and help you break this freeze. Otherwise, you're going to lose a lot of resources. Yeah, do not forget that. The fifth technique I'm going to talk really quickly about is proxying. Honestly, I don't really know much about proxying. I only can tell you that it's specific to some champions that usually do not want to be fighting early on against the enemy. So what's proxying? Well, as you can see, it means killing the wave in between the two enemy towers. So there are a lot of risk and some potential good rewards, but I really encourage you to find a guide about proxying and to see if your champion can do it. Otherwise, you're just going to die trying to farm the wave, just like that. Now that we've seen the 5 techniques, let me give you an overall insight of the wave management. There are 3 lanes, and top lane 1 versus 1 but long lane, mid lane 1 versus 1 short lane, bot lane 2 versus 2 long lane. I would say that top lane is the most influenced by good wave management because it can create a lot of imbalance to have a long lane and only a 1 versus 1. So you have to take into consideration how strong you can push, how strong the enemy can push, if you can bully the enemy, because if the enemy can push, but you can bully him, well, he actually cannot push, and how easily you can tank the wave for freeze, for example. Those are the main factors to take into consideration when you want to do some wave management, and you have to understand why you want to do that. Well, let's say you want to recall, well, you have to create a slow push like that, and then when you're close enough to the tower, you hard shove everything. There are a lot of creeps in the tower, and you have a nice free recall. You have to understand all of that to do some good wave management. Now let's see some neat tricks to go even further. My first tip is meant to deny XP if your enemy top laner or bot laners are pooling for the jungler. This way, you just take the aggro from every creep and get attacked once, just like that, and then you run in the bush. This will force the focus on a single minion, which will deny 1 minion of XP and gold. This can be really useful. My next tip is pretty logic, but you have to remind that yourself sometimes. When you're getting bullied, you must try to farm when your enemy laner is also farming, because he cannot bully you and farm at the same time, and often they will prefer to farm than bullying you. So try to farm when they're also farming. Pretty easy, right? My third tip is actually to commit suicide. Yeah, you heard me right. When you're about to crash a wave, but you do not exactly have enough pushing power, and you do not want the wave to crash just in front of the enemy tower, you can drag the enemy wave away so that you make sure your wave goes on the tower. You die and you get the Home Guard buff, so that's not the end of the world, and you do not get frozen, which would be the end of your game. My fourth tip is also about logic, but it is really nice to know. It is that the waves are symmetrical, which means if my wave is reaching this point, this wave is going to reach this point. As you can see, this will help you know if you can wait for a wave or if you just have to let it go because it's going to come too late. My fifth trick is actually a tip, and it's to know that when the first tower is destroyed, the two lanes are going to collide right here. So just so you know, it can be really helpful to know that they will collide right in front of the tier 2 tower. It can maybe change your decision on whether you want to risk taking the wave or not. So now that we've seen all the techniques and some neat tricks on wave management, I'm going to give you my final take on this. Wave management is still pretty hard to master because you have to think 2 or 3 waves ahead on what you want to do with the wave. Do you want to make a slow push and have a bounce back? Do you want to recall? Do you want to go on an objective? And can you do it? Because if the enemy laner is stronger than you, he will dictate the wave state. So you might want to get the help from the jungler or, many things to take into consideration. I hope this guide helped you, and maybe, just maybe, you could like and subscribe.